My name is Gavin Evans, and this is my ranking of Jaume Collet-Serra's filmography from worst to best. And this video will have spoilers, so there's your warning. But I actually find this guy to be very underrated. Like, his movies are entertaining, he has a distinct style, and he's able to play around with all these different genres. Like, he can do movies about Liam Neeson on a plane, Liam Neeson on a train, Liam Neeson in Europe. Okay, jokes aside, the guy can do action thrillers, he can do horror, he can do adventure, but the one type of movie he can't do is superhero movies. So let's begin by talking about his worst one, and it's Black Adam. This movie is very frustrating because it does have its cool moments, and I do like some of the directions the story takes, but it just feels so generic throughout. The action is never as thrilling or as exciting as it should be, mainly due to the fact that Dwayne Johnson just doesn't allow himself to get beat up in movies. He's too invincible here to the point where the movie is just bland, and I thought the villain was truly horrendous. So it's not an abysmal movie, but it's definitely bad. So that's why it's Jameet's worst movie. And unfortunately, his second worst movie is the brand new The Woman in the Yard. And this movie is so frustrating because I did like the first half. I thought the escalating tension between the mom and the son was so good. I thought the movie was well acted. I thought the movie was well directed. Like, this movie is well shot. It does have effective sound design. It is well edited. And it does have its creepy moments. I like when the woman in the yard is playing around with shadows. So, there is stuff to like here. And the last act just completely dropped the ball. Like, there was a moment where it looks like the mum is trapped as a shadow, but then she's out and perfectly fine. She then enters this mirror dimension, and it's a neat idea, but then the movie doesn't really do anything with it, and then it cuts back to the beginning of the movie where she's the woman in the yard, and I was like, okay, is this like a time paradox movie? Like, what's going on? Like, there are some weird, interesting things happening, but the movie doesn't commit to anything. And then it ends on a note where the mom is revealed to be suicidal. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that on YouTube or not, but I guess I'll find out. And it turns out that the woman in the yard is a representation of her intrusive thoughts. And then she gets ready to do it, but then she doesn't do it, but then some things are reversed, and does that mean that this is a different dimension, or that she is dead, but her kids are there, and then there's some backwards words, but other words are forward, and it just ends on a note where, like, it's trying to not give you all the answers, but instead it actually gives you all the answers to the point where the movie doesn't make sense. And look, if she doesn't do it, how did she go from going to do it to not doing it? It doesn't make any sense. The movie just completely falls apart at the end, and it ruins the movie. And I know I've seen some people say the movie is offensive, and I wouldn't go that far. Like, some things do seem to be in bad taste, but people do have intrusive thoughts. It's just a better story if she's able to overcome them and win in the end. And this movie kinda wants to do that, but it doesn't commit. It's a fucking disaster. Also, the one scene where we find out that the mom was actually driving adds nothing to the movie. Like, it plays it off like this big, shocking reveal, and I'm like, oh, okay. So I do love some stuff here, and I think there's a number of directions they could have gone in for the last act that would have worked with me, but it's just not willing to commit to anything, and as a result, it's a mess. But now we're at the good movies of his, and his 9th best movie is Non-Stop. And this movie is just non-stop fun. Look, it's contrived as hell. If you stop and think about it for too long, the movie just falls apart. Like, the way certain things happen just isn't believable, and Liam Neeson actively does the worst thing he could do in any scenario, so it can be frustrating, but there is still an effective movie here about this man trying to overcome his demons, and in an attempt to do good, ends up falling short in everyone else's eyes, and him trying to beat that. And I think there's enough there. It's entertaining, and I just like movies set on a plane. Whether it's this one, or Air Force One, or Airplane, or Red Eye, or Flight Plan, I like airplane movies. Give me more airplane movies. So, it's fun. His 8th best movie is The Shallows. And disclaimer, I'm not a big fan of shark movies because they're all the same and none of them are ever going to be as good as Jaws. But that said, this one is definitely one of the best ones in its genre. It can actually be quite brutal at times, it can be tense, it's well made, and the ending is so stupid but in the best way possible, and the very uncontroversial actress Blake Lively does a really great job here. So it's enjoyable. His 7th best movie is Jungle Cruise. And look, I love Disneyland. And I love the Jungle Cruise ride. It's adventurous, it's funny, and this movie captures that spirit. It feels like an old-fashioned adventure movie in the best possible way, and I thought Dwayne Johnson was actually pretty good. Emily Blunt is really good, and these two together did have chemistry. I thought the twist that Dwayne Johnson was immortal was actually a really neat idea, and that flashback scene goes so hard. Like, the music there is great. But it is one of those movies where it feels like it was made on a studio set, and I wish it felt more real, and I wish certain aspects were done better. So it's fun, but flawed. The 6th best movie by him is Unknown, and I feel like some people haven't seen this movie and it's unknown to them, but it's solid. It's contrived, no doubt, but Liam Neeson carries the movie incredibly well, and I do think there is something here about how our memories shape who we are, and how there's a different aspect of our individuality of making choices, and how those two things about us affect us. And I don't know, I think there is some smart aspects to this movie, and it's just a good time. His 5th best movie is The Commuter, and this movie is non-stop but on a train, And I actually find it improves upon Non-Stop in every way. It's effective, it's fun, and it has so much style. That one fight scene is so goofy, but it's so good. And I will always love seeing Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga on screen. It's contrived, but I have fun with it, and it takes place on a train, and we need more movies to take place on trains, like Source Code, Unstoppable, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, Last Act. We need more movies like this. Oh, and The Lone Ranger, of course. Can't forget that one. I love that movie. His fourth best movie is Carry On. And I really liked this movie. Taron Egerton is so good, and Jason Bateman is great as a villain, and I just like the tension between these two characters. Jamit's really good with character tension. And the movie is thrilling, it's tense, it's fun, and it's one of those movies where you stop and think about, what would I do in this scenario? And yeah, like, it's contrived, and I know that one scene is filled with CGI, but I like it. I really do. So, yes. And also, this movie takes place in an airport, and we need more movies to take place in airports. Like, we've got Die Hard 2, which sucks. We've got The Terminal, which sucks. We need more good airport set movies, but it's a damn fun time. And then his third best movie is One Our Night. And this movie is actually quite emotional. Like, there's some really good character drama here about this man who is filled with regrets and comes to realize how bad of a person he was too late in his life, and how he's trying to do the right thing now. And I thought it was so compelling, and I love the relationship between Liam Neeson and Ed Harris here. It's just so good, and there's some solid action, but it's the story and the characters that allow this movie to stand out. But then we get to his second best movie, and it's Orphan. And this movie is just so effective because you're watching this innocent mom just getting psychologically tortured the entire time. And it's so uncomfortable, it is so effective, and it just gets under your skin. And you understand why she acts the way that she does, but you know how it looks to other people as well. And it just makes for an unnerving movie. And Vera Farmiga, Peter Sarsgaard do a great job, but Isabella Fuhrman, her performance, which really elevates this movie. It can be brutal at times. I love the look of the lighting here in that one scene. And the twist is an all-timer because it could have been black and white, would have been a good solid movie, but that twist adds depth. Well, Esther is a victim of her circumstance, and that doesn't make anything that she does right. But you kind of get it. She's just trapped being viewed as a kid, and she will never find love. She will never be respected, and how that can drive someone to a dark place. So this movie just fully delivers for me, and maybe. Oh, I also like how the one daughter's deaf and how that's used throughout the movie. So yeah, love it. But my favorite movie of his is House of Wax, and here's the deal. We've watched and reviewed this movie back in August, I want to say. I watched it again since, and I loved it even more. Like, despite some questionable acting at times, this movie to me is perfect. It feels like a video game brought to life in the best possible way, and there's a constant sense of tension, a constant sense of dread, a constant sense of intrigue, and you're just invested the entire time. And when we start to get some answers, holy shit, is this movie effective. Like, yeah, it's brutal, gross, and disgusting, like people being turned into wax statues, like terrifying. But the fact that they stay alive, so they're just waiting to die. They're just waiting to starve to death. They're just waiting to die of dehydration. Like, holy shit, like that scene where his face gets peeled off is so gross. But nothing in this movie affects me more than those ideas. And I also love how the entire town is set up to be like a dollhouse. I thought that was really neat and it made for a good setting. The movie, it's also got like other gross moments, like where the girl's finger gets cut off, or where the girl's mouth gets glued shut and she has to rip it open. Like, oh my goodness, this movie's gnarly. And I do like the character arc of the brother, who's kinda a loser, a douchebag, but he ends up being a good guy by the end. And the final conflict of this movie, perfection. Like the House of Wax just melting away. It looks so cool and I love it. I really do. I think this movie is so much fun and it's awesome and it's effective and horrific, and it's honestly one of my favorite movies at this point. Like, I would probably put it in my top 100. It's a movie I just love, and yeah. So anyways, that's my ranking of his filmography. What's yours? Do you think he's as underrated as I do? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned for more videos soon. And Gavin,